You know,
Well, I'm curious here if we're going to see any deviations. So far, the two most banned operators are Thatcher, and I believe Maverick is currently in second for most attacker bans. Valkyrie is a must ban on defense. A map like Cafe, I expect to see her as well.
right?
So far, Thatcher, very first ban on attack. So things are pretty normal. Nature is healing, and look at that. Michael Maverick also banned.
Yeah, I mean, we do see some Maverick bans. So far through this stage, he's been a lesser banned attacking operator, but we've seen a much more healthy spread of bans on the attacking side, so that's not too crazy. Again, the Maverick ban with the Thatcher ban creates a kind of a difficult prospect for opening things up, especially in a map like Cafe. You might even have to bring Kali when attacking the bottom floor. The Defender bans, Valkyrie has become this... I don't know what to call... I guess it's the Thatcher of defense. She's so overtly strong that you have to get rid of her, or you have to constantly be thinking about her. So in competitive play, we often see her banned. And here she is on the chopping block. We've been seeing more Echo play as of late in the NAL. So getting rid of that Echo does not surprise me in the least. And the ban phase, Parker, you asked if we would have anything interesting or different happen in it. The answer is no.
Not really.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think is worth speculating upon is the timing of that Valkyrie ban. Now, obviously, Maestro is an incredibly strong operator on this map on every single site. And yeah, we know. Back in the olden days of DarkZero, playing on this with Hot and Cold on the old roster, well, Maestro was a part of their strategy, so it would be understandable to me that you wouldn't want to take it out. But Maestro is also a very pivotal operator for TSM, whether it's Merc's hands, whether it's in Chala's hands. And DarkZero banning out the Valkyrie first leads me to believe two things. Number one, obviously, they don't want to play against a Valkyrie. Nobody does. But you could have potentially left the Valkyrie ban up, taken out the Maestro, and seen if TSM would respond accordingly and do the job for you.
10 seconds remaining.
Now, in this case, because you ban the Valkyrie instead of having TSM do it, that's going to leave TSM with an option to ban whatever they want. They ban out the Echo. They don't really need to use it. That's fine. I don't know if that strategically really matters for DarkZero, but it is the only thing really worth noting about because everything else is so standard with those bans.
Yeah, no, I checked the stats. I mean, DarkZero plays it 15% of the time when available. This is the Echo. It has a higher win rate, 74%, but it's not that crazy. You know, DarkZero can live without an Echo. They're not suffering from that ban, so it's really just a preference thing, I think, for TSM.
It makes sense. It makes sense in that regard. One thing to watch for TSM is the Nitro Cell comes out from Merc. It claims Hyper. That's a good start for TSM in the very first round here on Cafe. The highest flying performer in terms of player on DZ. Well, he's flying high because that Nitro Cell shot him up in the air. That is a tough loss. Your Zofia is down. No stuns and concussions are gone. The info that you get from that destruction is all gone. Rough going for DZ.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they recover from that. Oh, nice shot from Bolo. Down goes Pambazoo. And there you go. It's getting worse and worse for DarkZero as time goes on. Now this, Parker, already was the question I had most directed at TSM. Are they going to be able to maintain this rigid, direct type defense that they've been doing against all these other NAL teams against DarkZero? At least in this first round, the answer appears to be yes. It's working out well for TSM, just taking these fights directly so far.
Well, one of the operators that was on DZ's lineup, who's now gone, being played by Pambazoo, is Ash. And, well, now... pardon me, TSM. My apologies for having a thought that I was trying to convey live. That's the first round in the books, by the way. Stopped literally mid-sentence by a hail of bullets from TSM, and my sentence was just as punishing as the end of that round for DarkZero. It's a flawless first round for TSM.
Oh, boy. Now, okay, so a couple things at play here, Parker. Number one, Cafe. Cafe is the type of map where there are a lot of bottlenecks, yeah? There are a lot of things you need to break through as the attacking team. In that round, TSM, they held true to those bottlenecks. And that is the second thing, Parker. It's the TSM. I've been talking about it every single time I see TSM play now. No other team in NAL is doing it quite like them right this second. And it's very interesting to watch. All TSM did there was pick your typical roam spots that you usually see on Cafe, and they held those spots instead of retreating. When prompted by drones, or any piece of utility, or repel, or what have you, anything DarkZero threw at TSM, instead of retreating, as you are so often going to see in NAL, TSM just put their guns up and took a fight. And that is the difference. Now, there were a couple bits of hilarity there, specifically what happened down by Engine. That was just, oh boy. That was just funny. That was comedy. But in general, that's the main thing that's happened that last round. And it's going to, I was wondering if it would happen yet again. It's the same reason why TSM was so dominant in their first 2 matches of this stage. I maybe DarkZero will figure it out as time goes on, but so far, good start for TSM with a flawless.
Last time we saw TSM have a good look on this map of Cafe, they had that intricate setup inside of the bathroom with Bolo playing in there. There was castle barricades all around them, Jaeger ADSs, some Maruni gates. They've obviously opted to not go with that strategy, so it was something that maybe they thought was good enough for a map or two, and then it had worn out its welcome. Instead, this looks like a pretty standard utility soak style of defense from them. Goyo Shields will try to eat up as many of those explosives as is humanly possible, and of course DarkZero accounts for that by bringing 4 operators that are capable of blowing things up in the Flores, Sledge, Ash, and Zofia. I think this is as good a time as ever for me to talk about it. Pambazoo is playing Ash, whose pick rate has plummeted since she got a host of nerfs. Iana's pick rate has skyrocketed, and Flores has had a healthy role in the meta too. So DZ obviously really want their explosives here, and instead of going with Iana, they're instead going to trot out the Ash, which I think is an interesting choice, given how it seems to have fallen out of favor.
Yeah, it's objectively inferior as operators go. I mean, you're just getting the movement speed bonus over Iana, who has 1 extra explosive, so... And the same gun. Nobody's using the R4C in comp anymore. Anyway, the fallback here from TSM is being forced by DZ, so this is the best attack we've seen, obviously, from them, but they'll lose the first body all the same. And once again, it is Hyper to die early on before he's able to influence the round in the ways that we know he is capable of. Breach is open, but Pojo Man's just gonna land another nasty shot. Down goes Pambazoo. NJR will get Bolo, so at least there is some exchange. And that's a smoke. It's a great pick, but it's still a better exchange for TSM as they lose control of the top floor.
BC's got that vantage point that you need to play off of, as it's going to look at where the default plant tends to go down by the bookcase, find the B-bomb, and Pojo's not looking correctly, and even after they must have heard BC up there, I understand that Hibana's a dainty lady. She's a one armor. She's not going to make a ton of noise, but you can hear her tap dancing around, especially with the way the sound works in this game. So for Pojo, that's bad. He picked up the 2 kills for his team thus far. Worth noting as well in the final 30 seconds, Hyper to die first. He has the best entry stats in the league. He's now lost them because he went -2 so far. As for the rest of TSM, well, it's a 3v3. Things are not so dire for DarkZero. BC has done a lot of work. He's getting the plant down now. Nobody seems to know this. Coverage from the doorway. Watching that bookcase that I referred to, they need to be wary of pillars. The clip's finished off. It leaves just NJR and BC by that diffuser, which goes down. Nitro cell eaten by BC. The retake has claimed everybody but NJR. 1v3. Swings, connects, looks up top. He has no idea where that target prioritization is going to come from. Hopping on that diffuser, he's running out of time. He goes for the vault out, but if Chala sticks it, he could very easily get it. No, NJR's down in the clutch, and it's Chala again. 2 in a row for TSM, and you know what? If Chala had stuck that diffuser, he probably would have gotten it, but regardless, he walks away with the kill. Doesn't really matter. 2-0 TSM.
Excellent try from NJR. He unfortunately went for the vault, locked him into rotation, but there's more to pick apart than what happened in that clutch situation there at the end. The biggest thing is that DarkZero was successful at dislodging the TSM roamers, and they did force some of the ones to fall back who didn't actually decide to stay true to their own position. Now, of course, it was much later in the round. As I'm sure many of you noticed, there was very little time left on the clock when DarkZero started their plant. And I also like the fact that TSM went for a very constructed isn't the right word, maybe structured on retake. They didn't overextend knowing that the diffuser was being planted, which is so often the case in those situations. So you got to appreciate the patience there at TSM. You also have to respect the fact that DarkZero was able to so effectively dislodge those roamers upstairs. We don't see that very often against TSM as of late. And so props to DarkZero for that, even though, obviously, they didn't win the round in the end. that was a good and solid round. I think if we see more of those, this is going to be a heck of a match, Parker.
Close, right to the very bitter end. DZ's hold after that plant went down wasn't particularly strong. 2 players escaped outside, and well, they read the call off of Bolo's vault correctly, but a 3v1 with the angle that you're playing at, rotate somebody over to pillars, keep somebody on that diffuser, you're going to be in trouble. That round, though, in the books, we're now underway with round number 3, and I talked about this in round 2. This setup inside of the bathroom, and obviously it'll be highlighted now here. Bolo will sit on cams, on top of mute jammers, on top of ADSs, castle barricades up there, laser gates, a mirror window.
Yeah.
Look at everything that is going into this particular setup.
So we've seen this before. It was used at the Six Invitational by a couple teams. It's a nice one. I really do like this. It basically just focuses on leveraging as much utility away from the attackers as possible before you have to fall off of that position. Now, one thing to stress here is that a well-placed Flores drone will circumvent all of the denial that you have set up. So you have to be very careful, and that's why the mute jammers are also placed on the mirror window. So it's all about how attentive Bolo is, the placement of those mute jammers, and if NJR is able to finesse the situation to get his drones to detonate on the ADSs. Still, though, no matter what, you're looking at a lot of utility to burn on this position, and Bolo is just the player to have here to waste as much of it as possible.
The Thatcher ban as well that came in from TSM is going to pay huge dividends because you have to go after those mute jammers if you want to take control of the wall. Nitro Cell goes out. They've been so good for TSM thus far. Grenade from Eclipse does go, but no, nothing for it. Pojo, again, second round in a row, starts off the killing. That's 3 rounds now where TSM have been exceptional on the entry. But BC doesn't care. He doesn't give a hoot at all. Look at him taking the engagement as best he can. A bit of hubris on his end, though, as Bolo cuts him down to size. Diffuser picked up by NJR above. He'll have to rotate on over. Pambazoo taken out by Bolo, still in this position. There's 1 minute and 14 seconds left in this round, and, well, half of the server is dead at this point. BZ went for broke. They tried to take advantage of a quick push into that bathroom where Bolo was headed up, and it did not work so well for them.
Now it's just Hyper and NJR. Now, Hyper hasn't been able to play yet. He's been getting picked off early. So this is his opportunity. He put something on the board. NJR, on the other hand, has been the top performer for his team so far. So don't count out DZ yet. That's a nice shot on a Merc. Backbar storage. Suddenly, the score is a lot more even. Smoke there to cover the mirror window, which will allow NJR to take control of Pixel. Here they're going to have problems as Hyper goes down, and so does NJR, despite the smoke. There it is. TSM take their 3rd round in a row. All up that position by Pixel. Nobody able to dislodge Bolo from that spot.
Well, you talked about how Chala was only going to die, what is it, 3 or 4 times?
He had only died 4 times going into this match.
I don't believe he's died so far this game. So
Has he?
we're now 3 rounds in, and I'm reasonably certain that Chala has not died once, because he certainly didn't die in the first round. It was a flawless. Second round, he's the one that clutched out, and no, he died. He has not died. They changed the scoreboard around, by the way. That's very confusing.
It is, yeah.
They changed the scoreboard to, so deaths, it went from KAD to KDA, and no, we're not talking about the pop group.
And they didn't change it in game, too, with the overlay. Like the spectator?
Yes, when you hold tab, it's KDA. When you look at the UI in Spectator, it's KAD. So,
yeah. So everyone's confused. Just so we're all, just you have to wrap your brain around the multiple different. Anyway, no, yes, Chala hasn't died yet. As you mentioned, Parker, and I mean, he'll probably die at some point.
So for the record, so far in this season of the NA League, Chala has played 20 rounds and he's died how many times?
4.
There you go. Every 4 rounds, Chala dies once. Just in case anybody's curious.
Every 4 rounds in Rainbow Six, a Chala dies 1 time.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's a flawless cycle for TSM. Start things off 3-0. Now, obviously, if we look at those 3 bomb sites in isolation, just look at them as like a small game in and of itself. Everything that DZ did on those 3 rounds differed round by round by round, and I like that approach from DarkZero. The first round, well, they tried to play a little bit spread out after they lost Hyper early. They realized how crucial Azofia was for them. Losing that early on completely reshapes your attack. Second round, same thing happens, but they try to play closer together. They take control of objective quickly, isolate the players on TSM, and force TSM to play on the retake. Smart move as well. Third round, they realize that with how hunkered down Bolo is, if they can get Bolo out of there very quickly, a lot of the utility from the defenders was all in one spot. It should leave everybody else strung a little thin. They did that, and BC almost accomplished it, but DZ got cut down to size. Even though they came out empty-handed, Michael, I like that DZ is trying different things on every single take.
Yeah, no, you do have to pay respect where it's due. I think this scoreline is very... It misconstrues the truth. And the truth is that this has been a close contest for many of these rounds. Not all of them, mindly. We did have that flawless to start things off, but here we go. Pambazoo already in code check, fast into the building, wasting no time, and he's got good control, but Chala will shut him down as Pambazoo tries to use his control for more. NJR's in sight as well. Pistol out though, and Pojo will shut him down. It's a 3-on-3, but the back and forth will continue. The vertical control coming in big for TSM. This rush trap for DZ has not worked out as they'd hope. BC now in the 1 versus 2, but he's got 2 minutes to work with, so he's not feeling any type of constraint. He'll move upstairs knowing that Bolo was able to get a pick from above earlier in the round, and it's worth noting that Chala has finally died.
You look at everybody that's currently playing in the NA League. If there's anybody that I would want in this situation right now, it comes down to 3 men. Chala, Bosco, and BC. Now, obviously, BC is in the server at the moment, and he's playing on an operator with lots of utility. Now, I would say that, but BC's already expended all of it. He used it to open up some of the walls, and now he'll go hunting for these kills because he has nothing else to his name. That also includes a lack of intel. Briefly spotting the head of Merc, who didn't need to peek again. Wait for it and let him come to you, but Merc decides to go for it, leaving Bolo and BC in a 1v1 showdown that Bolo comes out on top of. TSM are up 4-0.
What an excellent try from BC, though. Seriously. One thing I'm noticing so far through this match is actually it's BC and Pojo who are landing some of the nuttier shots. Obviously, Bolo is, but you expect that from him. But it's just impressive to see that both of them can so quickly shrug off what must be at least a little bit of rust. And well played to BC for a try there, but Bolo's better in the end, and he'll take that one. So 4-0. Rush strat from DZ. Parker, you, just the round prior, mentioned how it's interesting and impressive that DarkZero are constantly bringing out new strategies. And, well, that round was a great example to prove your point. A rush strat, but not a fully chaotic one. It was well-placed rushes from the whole team on DarkZero, where they're getting key locations to play off crossfires with each other. The timing didn't line up perfectly for DarkZero, and that's ultimately, I think, what caused them so much damage there. There were also some misguided pushes from certain players, like Pambazoo, trying to force out a coat check just because one of his teammates had already made it in through prep. That's not the right timing for that push, and he got cut down in that cross. If he's holding the rotation there a little bit longer, makes all the difference. That means NJR is going to be able to do more work from prep. Anyway, timing happens like that sometimes. But all the same, as much as this is weird, I have to commend DarkZero for at least trying something new, even though it didn't work.
The entry from DZ has been bad across the board, whether it be forfeiting those opening picks, you know, a nitro cell sailing in your direction, sight unseen. TSM is perfect right now, 4-0, and they've won the opening duel in every single round. That goes a long way, especially when the first people to die are often Hyper and Eclipse. They make up 3 of those 4 early deaths. You lose your grenades right away. You lose tons of soft destruction if you lose Sledge and Eclipse in that position. You lose your concussions and your destruction in Hyper, on top of just having, outside of maybe Chala, the next best player presently in the NA League if Hyper goes down. So DZ losing one of those 2 early on, that's why NJR and Pambazoo are on this roster in so many ways. That's a huge part of why Pambazoo was brought in. So the fact that he's having a tough game so far obviously doesn't help any. Irrespective of how Hyper and Eclipse are doing, you need Panda to be showing up, and whether it's the team failing him or him not playing off of his own game sense, I can't make that call.
Yeah, and ultimately it's beside the point. It's, you know, we just need to see the performance. The practical effects are the focus here right now, and DarkZero Well, they've got good control here. At least in this round, this is solid control inside Train. You can use this to launch an attack into Dining. This is the opportunity for DZ to finally pick up a round. No guarantee of that, of course, but they're looking solid on their structure. TSM still have vertical, though. They haven't been fully pushed out. So that's going to be a task that DarkZero has to accomplish later in the round, or they will be punished for not having done so. It's Merc upstairs by White with Pojo in tandem to hold this position, and they're just going to stay here as long as they can. Wait out the clock.
Now, all of DZ's focus is on A at the moment, but B is where we see the plant go down most of the time in these matchups. And with BC doing just that a couple rounds prior, you have to imagine that that's going to be the focus. Problem is that you really do not have control of the B-bomb site until you have control of Cocktail above. And guess what? DZ at the moment really doesn't have control of any significant map control, and they're going to have to rotate. 40 seconds remaining. They will need to be quick on this, because Pojoman and Merc still lord above. You had achieved playing down below. They're all spread out. So if you want to go for A, go right ahead, but then there's Bolo in his position by the stairs, and he will stop you in your tracks. Another opening duel breaks in favor of TSM, though. Answered back by Hyper. He's taken out. Chala now to the rescue. They'll play off of the default spot. Drone goes down. Diffuser surrendered too, as everybody from DZ is dropping. Leaves NJR and Pambazoo in a 2v4. Make that just one as NJR hits the dust. Pambazoo tries to hit Achieved, but he gets jumped on, and it's 5-0 for TSM.
Wow. That was, honestly, that one was a bit tough to watch there, Parker, and you made note of it as it was happening, and you were right. Essentially, what's going on there is DarkZero, they've gotten some control, but no important control. None of the extremely relevant, this is what we can use to finish off an attack sort of control. We're talking about vertical, for example. And, well, TSM still has that vertical, and they waited out the round, and the push starts coming in from DZ, but since they don't have any good avenues, I mean, they're trying to push it through 90. Gas canister stop them. They're being peeked from Pillar, getting mowed down from the flank. Now they don't really have any opportunity to push into Pillars, and 90 is not an option. Well, you can't push through Fireplace because that's a death sentence. It's just bottleneck after bottleneck, even if you open the wall. What do you do at this point if you're DarkZero? Especially since you lost the one lurker you had upstairs. Once you lose that player, you don't have any, like, there's no extra angle to your attack. You're just stuck between a rock and a hard place at that point. And DZ's raw mechanical wasn't enough to dig them out of that round. So TSM, as we have seen them do 5 times in a row now, completely locked out that round. We're going back to the top floor for the final round of the first half. And looks like we're getting another one of those really interesting heavy stack of utility on pixel sort of setups, Parker.
Well, this was billed as a very pivotal match for DarkZero, and it's certainly one that I know that our corporate overlords would be pushing as the match of the day. And on paper, this absolutely was, but in the server, this has been anything but a match worthy of watching at this moment, or at least in regards to how it was billed. This has been a 5-0 walloping from TSM, and what might be, frankly, one of the more embarrassing losses that DarkZero has ever suffered as an organization. Now, don't get me wrong, so far, TSM have obliterated every team that they've faced, but I think it's fair to say that historically, neither Disrupt nor Beast Coast have been on the same level as DZ, so they can very easily just be outliers. They're teams that have regressed. TSM is playing really well. Wait for a real challenge, I suspect some of their fans might say. In this particular instance, we're still waiting for a real challenge.
Yeah, and that was the question I had going into this match, Parker, was, is DarkZero going to be the team that finally shows the weakness in TSM? Because through this stage, TSM have been, I mean, frankly, they've been playing the best Siege I've seen out of the NAL over the last 2 seasons or so. But I thought surely it would be fleeting. Oh my, he got away with it again, Parker!
The same spot, the same C4, but this time it's not just Eclipse who's down for the count. BC will join him. The last time that DarkZero attacked this site, back in the 3rd round, BC was so instrumental. He made space, took out the castle barricade on Bathroom. He flew in. He took out the smoke that was playing on the stairs and continued to push forward, or rather Pojo in that regard, or achieved in that regard, whoever was playing over by the stairs back in round number 3. None of that's going to happen now. And now DZ have been just totally knocked off of their stride.
Another C4, but this one was terrible from Achieved. We all have those. He probably has something to do with the stairs. It's weird. Sometimes the top of the stairs will land you higher or lower. It's a little inconsistent, so not necessarily Achiev's fault, but I don't know. I'm not playing right now. What I do know is that DZ are 2 down, and Hyper's going to go for a Hail Mary play, trying to repel in through Heaven. The drop from Skylight for Pambazoo doesn't work. Neither does Hyper's play. It's just NJR under Skylight. He'll die in due course. He took one with him, but he's dead as well. So TSM, flawless half, Parker. 6 in a row, excuse me. Yeah, so I guess it wasn't just to do with the teams that TSM have been playing. I really, at this point, you could kind of, I think, unequivocally state that TSM are playing just a different type of Siege in the NAL.
There's the Nitro cell that we saw catching both of them on that repel too, Michael.
Yeah.
6-0 for TSM. The stats right now on entry, terrible for DarkZero. They got 1 objective down. That was it. It was not successful. The retake from TSM proved to be more effective. TSM on their opening duels went 6-0 in that half. They completed a perfect cycle, not going to a 4th bomb site. They stayed with Kitchen Reading Cocktail both times, and a flawless round started us off. It's now match point for TSM, who have guaranteed themselves at least 1 point in the standings. So it means that they can't be caught by DarkZero today. DZ cannot take first place, no matter what happens here. Even if DZ storms back and wins 8-6, which is their favorite scoreline so far through the 2 first matchups. Well, we speculated before we got into the game, and it was something that was talked about on the broadcast back on Wednesday. If you're DarkZero, how do you prevent yourself from choking the lead and forcing your team to go to overtime? Well, I suppose just never getting the lead is a good way to do that. But imagine this. You're a fan of DarkZero. You suffered through those 2 matches on Tuesday and Wednesday. Your heart palpitations getting worse and worse as that gap closed, and then finally they gave you some salvation by finishing it out in overtime. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have this if you're a fan of DarkZero? It's a rhetorical question.
I mean, yeah, I'd rather have that, obviously. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is the 6-0 rally comeback from DarkZero that's about to happen right now. I doubt it, but maybe. Top floor defense for DarkZero to try and stave off defeat here. They're going to bring the Ella shotgun play for Cigar. Now, this is a really solid way to stop a push in through top red and obviously new drop, but that's, you know, that's your typical push. Obviously, TSM are going to find a way to dislodge this. It's not going to be easy, though. This is a tough task to get rid of a player in that spot with that shotgun. Maybe TSM will try for a different take entirely. They've got 3 players over by Piano right now. They're just droning out, seeing what's going on here. Hyper is ready for a run out over by Dining. And when he goes for that run out, he's going to find Bolo, but Bolo finds him in turn. Oh no, he was ready for it, Parker.
That's unfortunate for them. And now it's NJR playing in a spot that we'd seen Bolo play out of, absorbing some damage. Eclipse does too. TSM haven't given up anything, and they want yet another flawless round. This would make 2 flawlesses back to back, and would mean that it's been over a week at the conclusion of today's matches since TSM has lost a single round. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though, because there's still immense staying power here from DZ. And with the composition that they have and the utility that's still upright right now, it's entirely possible that DZ pull this one out, as grim as things may look.
Ooh, that's a tough angle for both these players, and NJR's better. Down goes Achieved. NJR has been the one shining light for DarkZero, as he's picked up most of the kills on his team, and Eclipse will add to it with a shotgun kill and a Merc inside of Cigar. Pojo, though, will get Pambazoo, who overextends. And now we're back to even man count.
Pambazoo's going to be able to sit on that bulletproof camera that's staring at the flank of Eclipse for the remainder of the round. So even while he's dead on that cam duty, as you can see, they'll provide Eclipse a little bit more understanding and knowledge. But no, he peeks out in the wrong way. That camera doesn't see from above. It leaves BC and NJR. Now, having a UMP might not be the gun that you usually want, but with somebody like BC, he can make just about anything work. The problem for TSM at this point is that there's only 30 seconds left. You're going to have to confront the 2 remaining members of DarkZero, or at least try to pull off an execute and then win in the retake. NJR still situated over by White Stairs and White Corridor, just waiting very patiently. He's got 2 spam marks. If he swings on out, he might be able to capitalize off of this. BC takes out Pojaman. Bolo is on the hunt. He sees the gun. Down goes NJR. BC in a 1v2 match on the line. A flawless for TSM is in the books. And it's not just in the books, it's a reality. 7-0 for TSM yet again. Chala, a single death. Keep padding those stats. And another 3 points for TSM here in the NA League, Michael.
That is 5 deaths over 3 matches for Chala, and TSM continue their indomitable streak that they've had so far through this stage. I said it last time I watched TSM play. I will reiterate it now. This is the best iteration of TSM I have ever seen, Parker.
Unbelievable. 24 rounds have been played by TSM through these 3 games. 24 rounds. That's it. That's crazy. They are 21 and what is it? 21 and 3? 24 rounds that they played. It's absolutely...
They aren't losing a lot.
It's absolutely insane. 21 and 3, 2 flawless rounds back to back. There was a lot of chatter among NA players as to what TSM learned at the 6 Invitational. NA as a region did not exactly have the greatest performance. No region did outside of Latin America, if we're being completely sincere. But out of all the teams that emerged from SI, other than a team headquartered in Brazil, it certainly seems like TSM has learned by far and away the most, and they are mighty scary right now.
I said another thing I also mentioned last time I saw TSM, and I want to reiterate it again here. You will see it maybe by the end of this stage, but certainly by next stage, whenever that happens to be, teams emulating the defensive meta specifically that we're seeing from TSM right now. In North America, they are currently paving their own way in their own type of setup and defensive strategy. It is not too dissimilar to other strategies we see in the NAL. It's just ever so slightly different in that the way they like staunchly defend their positions. That's the biggest takeaway that I'm noticing, and it's working so well for TSM because they have the mechanical skill to back it up. They give themselves basic setups, and then they just hold, and it works for them.
And that was even with TSM committing a bunch of mistakes today. Some chances where they just didn't need to engage, and yet they did. Merc was an unfortunate culprit of that a couple times today, where they were in very favorable numbers positions, and Merc would still try to peek anyway when he could just sit and wait and hold angles like the rest of his teammates. Now, that's just a small thing, and that's actually a hallmark of Merc's playstyle. Some days he ends up with 20 kills, and some days he ends up with 2 because of it. But there's still more that TSM can refine. As for the other 3 teams that have so far faced TSM and had to deal with them, there's a lot that they could refine as well. The analysts will break it down in just a moment, but before we get there, we have a commercial break for you, so don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.